I lived in West Virginia for the past 3 years. The growing healthcare sector made it the ideal place to be transferred, as it had not only the best places to work, but also a decent chemical manufacturing sector as well. A penny saved is a penny earned. That being said, my work in healthcare has nothing to do with the events of this story, which took place between January 16th to March 16th in 2023. I've made many notes on what happened and when it happened, a habit I picked up from my work. But only in late 2023 did I start to obsess over it. January 16th. I left work late in the evening. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Many people work late into the night at my workplace. If anything, I left early compared to the others. The drive was short but beautiful. I will say that about the mountain state. That, and also the most beautiful night sky I've ever seen. In fact, it was because my eyes were glued to the stars whenever I came to a stop that I first saw it. A shadow blocking out the stars and moving fast enough for me to notice and slow enough for me to understand the shape. It was like a snake. It had a head, rectangular in shape, with these strange interruptions in the shadows. But the body thinned out towards the tail. It was snake-like, not only in shape, but in the way it moved. Serpentine. It was like seeing one of those water snakes, but instead of wriggling around along the surface of a still lake or a slow-moving river, it was drifting its way across the stars. I followed its movement path, ignoring the car behind me honking its horn. My vehicle's roof got in the way at some point, but I stuck my head out the driver's side window to get a good look at it. A screech of tires and a sudden rush sent me back into the car. The driver behind me had gotten too frustrated, waiting for me to move, so they had decided to drive around me at the same time I stuck my head out. Thankfully, he didn't drive any closer than he had been. I lost sight of this strange snake-like thing. I don't think it moved so fast at that moment. I just think it went beyond the dark shapes of the mountains and trees, leaving me searching for it. It wasn't so dark that I would have trouble spotting it again if it was in sight. With a disappointed sigh, I drove on. When I got home, I turned to a clean page on my notepad. I wrote the date and description of what I saw on that page, with some possible theories. At first I blamed my eyes, but then I made suggestions like a plane banner, a lost kite, a unique weather balloon. All of them were perfectly logical and believable. It was enough to make me forget about it and go to sleep. February 6th. Same deal. I was on a night drive, but not from work. I had a few days off for personal leave. I was driving to my girlfriend's, planning on surprising her. But I got distracted by another sliver of movement in the sky. Not the same one. It was larger, closer to the mountains. It seemed to be circling them. This thing, it seemed more anthropomorphic, with legs and arms, but also wings. The legs and arms were way too long for the gigantic body, dwarfing the tiny frame, and the wings even more so. The limbs dangled and flowed with the movements of the flying thing, which were sometimes slow, and sometimes so fast I would occasionally lose sight of it. I tried grabbing a picture with my phone, but it was a 10-year-old BlackBerry. Whatever miraculous night photo I thought I took was only a dark, grainy blur that wouldn't show anything, no matter how much editing went into it. This thing, it flew behind the mountain, and I didn't see it return. I waited. I completely forgot my plan to visit my girlfriend. Instead, whenever I had a free night, I would spend hours watching the sky. Sometimes with someone with me, but mostly I was alone. Nobody knew what I was searching for. They just thought I took up a new hobby of stargazing and appreciated that idea enough to not ask too many questions. My main focus was the part of the sky above the forest and near the mountain. Night after night, I watched. But it was only weeks later that I saw anything. February 27th. A pattern. 3 weeks between each sighting. I glimpsed this snake-like thing. With a cheap telescope at hand, I was able to observe it a lot better, and thankfully, it was a clear night. The interruptions in this snake-like thing were due to its several limbs. It had so many legs, like that of a centipede. They might have been wings, but if they were, they didn't seem to be moving that fast. Or maybe they were moving so fast that they looked like they were moving a little slow. I still don't know for sure. More importantly, its path reminded me of the second sighting, circling the mountains, stopping, moving, sometimes jolting to the next stop before stopping again. 10 minutes later, it disappeared behind the mountain, and I waited a little longer, but at some point, I knew it wouldn't come back again. The most important finding was the 3-week gap between the appearances. It might have been a stretch to believe that they operated on clockwork, but too many factors lined up to say that this was some random occurrence. March 20th. The last sighting. This is where I finally opted to learn something. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't sit back and watch it appear from a distance. I didn't have a good sense of their scale or their movement. Something as wondrous as this cannot be excused as nothing. I decided to venture as close to the area that they flew as I could. That meant taking dirt roads in my city car, passing by overgrown and abandoned hiking trails, as well as encountering the odd stag that wanted to play deer in the headlights. When I finally reached a point where the car could go no further, not without damaging it at least, I left it behind. I'm not an idiot either. I placed GPS tags for my phone to pick up on. A new phone too. I could find my way back in the dark if I had to, but I also brought a powerful flashlight. And finally, a camera with a 64GB card. Enough to get tons of high quality shots. Maybe even a video too. I didn't need much more than that. I didn't plan on staying out there the whole night. I was not too eager to walk through the forest at night either. I knew the dangers. Every sane human understands the threats that await us in the dark, especially away from civilization. That being said, I am a firm believer in statistics, and the risk-to-reward ratio was acceptable. I just wanted that one really good look. Who knows where that and maybe a few photos would take me. I stuck to the parts of the forest where the trees were thinnest, making my way closer to the mountain as I knew that would give me the most open shot of the thing. It was a good plan. I was making good progress, but something was already wrong. An irritation in my inner ear. A buzzing, which made me unsteady. It felt like the world was shifting around me. Or, more accurately, it felt like I was drunk without the buzz. Just the lack of coordination. The buzzing grew louder and more painful, like a tiny bug was nestled in my brain. It helped to cover my ears, which I did as tightly as I could, but still it was there. I stepped out of the forest, ending up at the foot of the mountain, with gritted teeth. When it began to fade, the sense of relief was intense. I didn't know I could tense so many muscles without actually being in pain. I opened my eyes, and I noticed a familiar shadow stretching across the mountain. Turning around, I saw it. The humanoid thing with long limbs and massive wings. I thought I might see it again. The angel and the dragon, I called them. The angel drifted, then jolted, then flew in its usual pattern. I got my camera ready as it did, the moonlight being enough to find it and the appropriate buttons to set things up. I was smiling, listening to the air part as the angel moved through it. I wondered if the breeze I felt was the gust of wind created by the beating of its massive wings. The camera was ready. It had moved behind the mountain, but I could see it turning. I raised my camera, taking a few shots in sports mode to capture the motion. A quick check of the display screen presented me with better photos, but there was still too much blur, as was to be expected. Excitement was bubbling inside my beating heart. It hovered above the forest again, continuing its search for whatever it was looking for. I started twisting the dial for the automatic camera presets. There was not a moment to waste. I raised the camera, and I took the shot. There was a thunk, and then a flash. A burst of light as the camera went off. I lowered the camera, and the angel's oblong head turned to face me. I could not see any feature in the silhouette. Not a hair, not an ear. It was an inky thumb for all I knew. But it had definitely noticed me. Being seen killed off any sense of excitement. The buzzing then returned, and then the inner ear pain. But I didn't raise my hands to cover my ears. I just took off into the forest. The ground trembled around me. The trees cracked as they were parted. The shadow of the angel was cast over me, and I found myself more than lost in the darkness. I didn't try making it back to the car. I just needed to find a place to hide. Afraid the noise of my panting or the movements of my running would catch the angel's eye, I stopped when I thought I found a good spot to hunker down. It was near a tree, and a thick one. I placed my body flat against it, focused on the sounds. Ahead of me, a hand dipped between the trees. The fingers were as large as trees themselves. Also, out of proportion compared to the elongated hand. It was looking for me. But when I looked up, all I saw were branches. Since I could not see its face, I prayed that it also couldn't see me. And that's when the tree started to bend. A bending tree is terrifyingly loud. I could feel the earth being pulled as the tree was knocked over. I think it was thanks to those roots that I was able to move out of the way of the trunk, but stick close enough to the tree to still be out of sight. When the tree had fallen, I stayed in the shadow of its upturned base, eyes shut, body shaking. Even with my eyelids closed, I could see the area brighten as the shadow withdrew. When I opened my eyes, the angel was gone. The damage to the trees was minor, aside from the fallen one, which I huddled nearby. It clearly had the strength to destroy the whole forest in its search for me. But for whatever reason, it didn't. I peeked out from my hiding spot to look back towards the mountains, just in time to see the angel slip behind it. After that, it didn't return. I lingered for a moment longer. The combined relief of my escape and the fading of that buzzing noise helped me to calm down. When I could move again, I marched back to my car, taking it nice and slow on my drive back, only picking up the pace when I was on a real road again and I could see other cars. I kept telling myself that I escaped, but there were moments when it felt like I never left that forest. Still, when I made it home, I turned on my computer and I transferred the photos. But all I saw was image burns. The kind of delayed light that one would see when capturing a moving light source. A fun effect if you wanted to write your name with a glow stick, but not when you wanted something to justify risking your life. The blurred image looked like scattered sparklers, whereas the picture of it hovering ahead of me left a bright white glow. Like I'd taken a picture of the sun, some fantastically iridescent object. Maybe it came down to the camera settings I chose, but somehow I doubt it. 3 weeks from then, I didn't see anything. I stayed up many nights after that, but still, nothing. Whatever the angel and the dragon were, they didn't stick around there. I'd like to believe I'm not the only one who saw them. I guess if you're not looking for them, it's possible to miss them. but I managed to see them by chance, so why not anyone else? I need some kind of confirmation that this happened and that this isn't the end. These things don't just vanish. Not without being seen. I don't think so anyway. Giants such as these have been seen before. There are carvings, paintings and stories. But I don't need ancient history or additional sightings. I know what I saw. I saw giants in West Virginia. And maybe, just maybe, wherever you are, you might see them too.